The Roaring Twenties were a time of incredible economic growth and debauchery, and it is in this time period that F. Scott Fitzgerald's novel, The Great Gatsby, takes place. In this book, Fitzgerald uses the motif of alcohol to illustrate the consequences of living far too long in a dream that is not compatible with reality.
This excerpt comes from when Nick was attending Gatsby's party for the first time. He was alone and couldn't find Gatsby and wasn't really being taken seriously by others when he was asking, so he was just wandering around aimlessly. This quote describes how Nick was on his way to get roaring drunk from sheer embarrassment, which demonstrates how he turns to alcohol to escape his feelings of embarrassment, even though in previous chapters it was said that he didn't drink much and didn't get drunk much. To get roaring drunk makes it seem like animalistic and loud, and that he felt like he needed to sort of abandon his human emotions and embarrassment to feel good and fit into the party. And he would do that by being drunk, and he would also be able to escape the unwanted reality of his emotions. But though his intentions in getting drunk is to rid himself of negative emotions, being drunk would instead leave him vulnerable and dishonest in who he would try to portray himself to be, and it would also make him more careless, which in the long run wouldn't be too good for him, especially since he's trying to find Gatsby, and he wouldn't exactly make a good impression if he was drunk.
This quote takes place shortly after one of Gatsby's parties, where two drunk partygoers were attempting to head home, but just ended up crashing into a ditch nearby Gatsby's house. The man responsible for the crash, who was behind the wheel, took a very long while to step out of the car, but once he did, he was unrealistically calm about the entire situation. In the quote, Fitzgerald uses "pale and dangling" to describe the drunk driver who just got out of his crashed car. The phrase "a pale, dangling individual" makes the drunk man seem almost deathly, as if he just risen from his own grave and was just a dead man walking. This phrase is contradicted by his behavior after he exits the wrecked vehicle. He looks at the crowd and asks, "What's the matter?" and "Did we run out of gas?" in a calm manner. His tone is described as calm rather than panicked, as anyone else would be in that type of situation. This man had just gotten out of a car crash wreck, and his first instinct was to ask if they're out of gas. The alcohol in his system allowed him to be so calm in this situation that he didn't even realize the severity of it. Fitzgerald uses this contradiction to demonstrate how this man who had just walked out of a life and death situation wasn't even able to fully process the situation due to the alcohol in his system that caused the entire crash in the first place.
This is my quote, quote 3. Fitzgerald uses sullen and lusterless to describe how the night had taken a sort of, well, dismal tone, a sorrow tone, you might say. You assume night with, you can conflate the term night with something bad happening. And I mean, not exactly, but it kind of relates to the unknown or the end of things. And this pushes how Fitzgerald describes the woman when she describes him as, or when he describes her as drunk or as cold and lifeless, describe how even though she may not or may be physically dead, she is metaphorically dead in the sense that this pursuit of this dream that they just continue to drink alcohol and engage in this debauchery to try and live in and force themselves into takes a toll on their body and their mental health, especially their bodies, because this woman is knocked out cold. And when these men are taking her away into this wrong house, it shows how they lose part of themselves when they lose part of what makes them them when they've spent so long trying to live in this false reality. They lose who they are in actual reality.
In conclusion, F. Scott Fitzgerald used the motif of alcohol to display just what can happen when you try to reject reality and to live in a dream. Alcohol specifically is used to point out the consequences of using substances to try and fulfill that wish to live in a dream.